You're doing too much, and none of it well. Let's call it what it is. You're tired. Not just physically, you're mentally fractured, spiritually scattered, and emotionally overextended. And it's not because you're weak, it's because you're trying to do everything. And you say yes far too often. You confuse busy with important, and the worst part, you're succeeding at things that don't even matter. So if you're new to this channel, this isn't just a book summary. We break down best-selling ideas and we connect them to God's word, so you can grow in both knowledge and in your faith. And today we're diving into Essentialism by Greg McKeown, a book that's not about doing less so you can be lazy. It's about doing less so you can live on a mission. In Essentialism, McKeown delivers one of the most brutal, liberating messages in modern leadership. If you don't prioritize your life, someone else will. This isn't about time management. This is about clarity. It's the art of cutting the noise, owning your direction, and saying a sacred no to everything that doesn't align with your calling. Not just what's bad, not just what's toxic, but even what's good if it isn't essential. There's a myth of doing it all. McKeown calls out the cultural lie that says, you can have it all. You should do it all. You're only valuable if your calendar is packed. But let's get real. That mindset isn't bold. It's burdensome. You don't need to do more. You need to do what actually matters and drop the rest without guilt. Jesus addresses this exact trap in Luke 10. Martha was busy serving. She was running around. She was doing good things. But Jesus says in Luke 10:41, Martha, Martha, you are worried and upset about many things, but only one thing is necessary. Mary sat at his feet. She chose the essential. And Jesus didn't rebuke Martha for doing wrong. He rebuked her for doing too much. McKeown introduces essentialism with a simple, powerful idea. Less, but better. That's not laziness, that's wisdom. And in a distracted, hustle-obsessed world, this mindset is radical. You were created to do everything for everyone. You were created to say yes to what God called you to build and say no to the rest. You're not burned out because you're weak. You're burned out because you're doing too many things God never asked you to do. It's time to stop striving for balance and start fighting for clarity. So here's the problem. Success can become a trap. More isn't always better. Sometimes it's just more noise. In Essentialism, Greg McKeown drops a truth bomb most people never see coming. Success can be the very thing that derails you. Not failure, not even sin, but success. Why? Because the more successful you become, the more your life fills up. You get more offers, more meetings, more people pulling on your time, more yeses you feel obligated to give. And before you know it, your calendar's packed, your brain's overloaded, and your soul is quietly exhausted. McKeown calls it the paradox of success. And here's how it plays out. You focus on what matters and you succeed. That success brings more opportunities. You start saying yes to too many things. Your focus gets diluted, your clarity fades, your output drops, and so does your peace. That's the hidden cost of not protecting your priorities. You think you're thriving, but you're actually drifting. I'm gonna give you a really good biblical example, and I think this is one of the saddest stories in the Bible. King Solomon, who had everything, he stopped focusing on God, and at the end of his life, he gave in to other temptations. He didn't fall because he failed. Quite the opposite, actually. He fell because he succeeded without staying focused. The wisest man in history became the most distracted. He began with focus, favor, and vision, and wisdom, but his influence grew, and so did his distractions. He had too many palaces. He had too many wives. He had too many foreign gods. He had too many unchecked yeses. His story ends not in fire, but in fog. And what does he write after building the greatest empire of all time? Meaningless, meaningless. Everything is meaningless. Ecclesiastes 1:2. That's not the voice of failure. That's the voice of a man who said yes to too many things, and he lost sight of what mattered most. The book Essentialism is about learning to apply filters, spiritual, emotional, and strategic. So ask yourself, will this move me toward my mission? Is this urgent, or is it aligned with my values? Is this a God thing, or just another good thing? Because every yes you give to something shallow is a no to something sacred. Success doesn't always look like failure. Sometimes it looks like progress that's just spread too thin. If the enemy can't derail your mission with sin, he'll try to bury you with busyness. Choose your yes carefully. Really quick, I want to tell you about a free resource called the 12 Laws of Faith-Driven Success. It's a quick download guide that gives you the top biblical principles found in nearly every best-selling leadership and success book that I cover. But it's rooted in scripture and designed for people who want to build something that actually lasts. No matter what your goal or idea you're striving for, this guide will give you clarity and traction. If you want to get a copy of this thing, it's free. Just go to zolane.com/12laws or hit the link in the description below. Now let's jump back to the book. So the essentialist mindset is less but better. Clarity isn't just a strategy, it's a spiritual weapon. At the center of essentialism is the one liberating idea: less but better. Not less and lazier, not less and mediocre, but less and sharper, more potent, more fruitful. Essentialists think differently. Greg McKeown contrasts two different mindsets. The non-essentialist says, I have to do it all. The essentialist says, only a few things truly matter. And here's what happens when you embrace the essentialist mindset. You stop chasing every opportunity. You learn to say no without guilt. You get off the hamster wheel of busyness and back into alignment with your purpose. Essentialism isn't just about cutting back. It's about stepping up by stepping into what matters most. Look at Elon Musk. He's a wonderful example of this. How many many different billion-dollar companies can one person run? He's showing you he can do it all. How does he do that? Because he focuses on what matters and he cuts out all the rest. Now, here is a crazy fact for you. The word priority is singular, and it wasn't pluralized until the 1900s. For centuries and centuries, people had one priority, but now we try to have 10 and wonder why we're overwhelmed. McKeown pushes you to stop trying to balance your life and instead own your priority. Not priorities, your priority. Here's what this looks like in real life. Adopting an essentialist mindset might mean turning down great offers because they're not your assignment, saying no to extra meetings so you can say yes to a family dinner, or cutting a side project that drains you so you can pour into the one that builds you. This is clarity in motion. It's not minimalism, it's mission focus. If the devil can't make you disobedient, he'll try to make you distracted. You can't do everything, and you weren't meant to. Essentialism isn't weakness. It's warfare strategy for people with a God-sized calling. Let's dive into the power of saying no. If you can't say no, your calling is at risk. If essentialism has a spine, this is it. If you don't learn to say no, you'll be buried by everything you never should have said yes to. Most people think burnout comes from doing too much, but Greg McKeown flips that idea. Burnout often comes from doing too many things that actually don't matter. Saying yes to what's good, but not essential. Saying yes out of guilt, pressure, people-pleasing, or fear. Saying yes because you're afraid of how a no might make you look. But here's the truth. Every yes is also a no. And if you keep saying yes to things God didn't assign to you, you'll eventually say no to the things he did. For many years of my life, I struggled with this personally. I said yes to my job and said no to things for my family. And I regret that looking back on it. So I made a decision years ago that I would no longer do that. I would prioritize my family over my career. I may have lost opportunities. It may have cost me some money, but what's gained is far greater. A lot of people have a fear behind a yes. People often don't say no because they don't want to disappoint someone. They don't want to miss out. They don't want to explain themselves. But McKeown makes it clear. When you say yes to something, you're saying no to an infinite number of other things. And if you don't choose your no with clarity, life will choose it for you with chaos. But let's get biblical, because Jesus said no repeatedly. Jesus, the most loving, mission-driven person in history, said no all the time. He said no to the crowds when he withdrew to pray. He said no to demands that didn't align with his timing. He said no to shortcuts that would have compromised the mission. In Mark 1, the disciples came to Jesus and they told him the crowds were looking for him after preaching the day before. After praying all morning, in Mark 1:38, Jesus said, "Let us go somewhere else." He didn't stay where he was popular. He went where he was supposed to go. Jesus wasn't driven by guilt. He was driven by obedience. And if you want to walk like Jesus, you have to be okay with disappointing people in order to please God and do the right thing. You need to remember that saying no is a boundary that's going to protect your yes. Saying no doesn't make you rude. It makes you responsible. McKeown gives you language to make it easier. I wish I could, but I have to say no. I'm committed to something else that's essential. Let me think about it before I answer. These phrases aren't weakness. They're wisdom. If Jesus said no, so can you. Every yes without discernment is a slow death on your purpose. Saying no isn't selfish. It's stewardship. No is how you protect your yes. No is how you defend your mission. No is how you stay free. You need to learn to make space to discern what really matters. You can't hear God clearly when your life is too loud. If you want to live an essentialist life, you have to do more than just say no. You have to make space to actually discern what's worth saying yes to. Greg McKeown writes, "The essentialist creates space to escape and explore life." This isn't escape as an avoidance. It's escape from the chaos long enough to hear clearly, think deeply, and choose wisely. You can't decide while you're drowning. Here's the most modern trap. Let me know if this sounds familiar to you. You're running on adrenaline. Your calendar is maxed out. Your inbox is overflowing, and your brain never gets a break. So you start reacting instead of discerning. You're choosing based on emotion, guilt, pressure, or fatigue, not clarity. And decision fatigue isn't just inefficient, it's dangerous. McKeown emphasizes that space is a productive strategy. But more than that, it's a spiritual necessity. Jesus created space before he made decisions. Over and over, the Bible shows Jesus retreating before advancing. Before he chose the 12 disciples, he spent all night in prayer. Before he began his ministry, he fasted for 40 days in the wilderness. Before the cross, he went to the Garden of Gethsemane alone. Jesus didn't rush. He didn't guess. He created space to hear from the Father, and then he moved with precision. In Luke 5:16, but Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. If the Son of God needed margin to make mission-critical decisions, so do we. So how do we put this into practice? McKeown recommends regular moments of escape, 30 minutes of solitude, thinking walks without headphones, retreat days for reflection, time blocking to protect our white space. And while he calls it exploration, we can call it what it really is. It's discernment time. This is where your yes gets refined, where your heart gets realigned, where your calendar gets reshaped before your peace gets stolen. Without space in your calendar, you repeat, you don't refine. If you don't pause to evaluate your direction, you'll default to your old place. The essentialist mindset says, just because I've always done it doesn't mean I'm called to keep doing it. God may be calling you to prune what was fruitful last season so you can grow something new in this season. Your calendar isn't just full, it's loud. And when your life is loud, your discernment goes dark. Create space, protect margin, block off time to hear what God is actually saying to you. Because if Jesus needed silence, so do to you. You need to remember that God doesn't reward busyness. He blesses obedience. Greg McKeown didn't write Essentialism as a faith-based book, but the principles are deeply biblical. Jesus didn't call us to do everything. He called us to abide, to discern, and to bear fruit that lasts. And the key to fruitfulness is not hustle, it's simplicity with focus, rooted in purpose and filtered by your calling. Your fruit is going to come from abiding, not striving. John 15:5, Jesus said, I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. In other words, your job isn't to chase everything. It's to stay connected to the source. Essentialism mirrors this truth perfectly. Say no to what pulls you away from your alignment and say yes to what draws you closer to your assignment. Busyness isn't fruit. Constant activity isn't obedience. Abiding leads to clarity. Clarity leads to fruit. I think one of the most wisdom-driven Old Testament verses is this. It teaches us to number our days. Psalm 90:12 says, teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. That's essentialism in one sentence. It's the prayer of someone who wants to stop living reactive and start living with intention. A person with numbered days doesn't waste them. They invest them. If you truly knew how many days you had left, would you live your life differently? Because it's not about minimalism. It's about doing less so you can rest more. It's about peace in your pace, conviction in your choices, freedom in your schedule, fruit in your calling. This is what it looks like to live unhurried but effective. To say it like Jesus did. John 17:4, I have finished the work you gave me to do. God isn't impressed by how much you do. He's moved by how well you obey. Essentialism isn't a strategy. It's spiritual alignment. Because when you follow Jesus, you don't need to do everything. You just need to do the essential. So let's do a quick recap here. If you don't know what's essential, you'll burn out chasing what's not. Let's hit the core of essentialism one last time. You don't need to do more. You need to do what matters most. Saying yes to everything means saying no to your mission. Success without clarity leads to burnout and distraction. Simplicity is not weakness. It's a weapon for focus, peace, and purpose. The essentialist doesn't do more. The essentialist does less, but better. The Bible's extremely clear. Matthew 5:37. There's no gray area here. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. Know where you stand and hold firm to that. So if you want to read or listen to Essentialism by Greg McKeown in full, I'll link it in the description below. It's totally worth adding to your shelf or adding to your Audible rotation, but I'll link it below if you want to grab it. Hey, and also as a quick reminder, if you want to grab the 12 laws of faith-driven success, just go to our website, zolane.com/12 laws. It's a free download, but it's got principles that'll work. They're rooted in truth and designed to help you grow with clarity and with purpose. So last things here, you're not here to do everything. You're here to do what's essential. So get quiet, get clear, and walk in obedience, fully focused. And I want you to remember one thing, God did not create you to be average. So take that first step today.